Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Mark Borstein. I'm CEO of Terminal Security and co-author of Kubernetes and Enterprise Guide, third edition. We are going to be talking about monitoring. What is going on in your cluster? In the past, we've put things in the cluster. We've deployed things to the cluster. We built cluster. We turn down clusters. We build load balancers for clusters, but we don't actually know what's going on inside of the cluster at any given time. So this was a totally new chapter. In the second edition, we did not do anything specific to monitoring and workloads in the first edition. Scott will, I think, be joining us. He's running a little bit late, so hopefully once he hops on, then he'll be able to hop in. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with LinkedIn. I cannot see who is posting. Let me go into LinkedIn. It'll probably tell me. I'm gonna guess I know who, but let's see. I don't actually want to. No, I don't. Yeah. No, that was Boris. Oh. So let's go ahead and thank you, Boris. I gotta open this up on another screen so I can see who's posting. But yeah, so what's going on in your cluster, right? Like what the one and the only, because I will never fear as long as Boris is here. So what is going on in your cluster? Right? How do you know what's going on? There are a couple of different ways to look at this. Oh, there's Scott. Let's see if we can add him.
Hey.
There's Scott.
It took a little while. My other camera wasn't working, so.
Don't hear you at all, buddy.
Of course not. That's weird.
Whatever it is, I can see the mic dots going up on your side.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I love seeing folks come in from around the world. Thank you for saying hello from Portugal. I'm going to see if I get this right. Ayobami? Ayobami? I hope I'm saying that right. If I get it wrong, I would deeply apologize. But thank you for joining us from Portugal. I think we're still trying to get Scott. Oh, you can hear him. I can't hear him, apparently.
Oh, good. So it's not just me. See? It's Mark. Mark blames me for everything, for anybody watching. Saying he can't hear me. So right now I can blame him for absolutely everything.
Uh-oh. I know what's going on. Hold on. Hey, Scott, you there?
Yeah.
Hey, there we go.
See,
so
I was telling everybody, by the way, Mark, that you blame me for everything, and you couldn't hear me. So I said, Okay, now I don't hear Mark. Does everybody else hear Mark?
Nope.
This is weird. Oh, now I can hear you. Yeah, I couldn't hear you for a bunch of that.
Using the connection to this microphone, and I don't know, like, why. I might, if it keeps happening, I'm just gonna switch over to the microphone.
I just saw we got Dom over there. Dom said couldn't hear you. Oh, Jack.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got Jack. Long time to see, buddy.
Yeah, I haven't seen Jack in a while. Good to see you guys, Jack and Dom.
Well, now you can hear us, Dom. But yeah, so we're this is a brand new chapter, right? Like this chapter was not, well, it wasn't totally in the first edition. You had built in back when we were doing what was the security system that you replaced?
Oh, that's right, because I had this inside with the Falco.
Falco, that's it. I couldn't think. Falco. Still got vacation brain. But yeah, no, so you had a Prometheus and Falco, and for the Falco chapter, from what I remember, right?
Yeah, we did a quick thing where I installed Elastic and a couple other things just because we wanted to show the Falco events, and even called it out in the chapter that look, there's a lot more to this. Where
Right.
I said you can write a whole book, as we know, on just logging, observability in general. So yeah, it was nice that we expanded it, right, to make it the full
Yeah.
chapter.
And knowing what's going on in your cluster is something that seems like should be really easy to do, and it's kind of hard, right? Like we're so this chapter is broken up into two pieces. We have the Prometheus chapter, which we might be able to get through all of Prometheus today. If not, we'll break that up into two episodes, and then we have Open Search for logs. And logs are like one of the hardest things to deal with in Kubernetes, at least from my standpoint, and handling that effectively. And like one of the weird things about logs is how expensive they are to manage. Like I've got a couple of customer clusters that I manage that the clusters are cheap. It's the logs and the storage.
Oh boy, somebody tell Mark we lost him again. Oh, we got Kafka. Oh no, and Mark dropped to come back in. Bonjour, Kafka. Good to see you on here. Mark's having some technical difficulties, so we'll give him a second to get back in. And before he gets in, I'm going to announce that we, as everybody knows, we'd like to expand beyond the chapters. Oh, we got Mark. So let's see.
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Now we can hear you, Mark. Yeah.
We're gonna go with the with these.
Okay. I was going to say, Mark, on top of all this, like you were saying with logging and that, I want to do one of our extended sessions where we're going to show a demonstration of using AI to go through our logs.
Okay.
Right. So I know I've talked to you in the past about this. There's some really cool projects out there, and probably dealing more with Holmes GPT for anybody that wants to look forward on it. You know, you could use GPT as well, but I like Holmes because it has especially if people want to play, they offer a free user interface, which is nice. So we'll do a session on that because, like you said, you can get a lot of information on these logs, which is why it's expensive because there's so much information that. How do you correlate it all and how do you make it easy? You want to lower that MTTR, right? Your mean time to resolution, which frankly in an enterprise, you're rated on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's figure the problem out quick.
Yeah. Right? I mean, one of the nice things I really like about that I really like about okay, so that's something else. I really like about the way Kubernetes does metrics and monitoring is it's all API based. Like anybody who has spent time in the enterprise world, going back to SNMP, right? And building traps for SNMP back in the day. Anyone who's had to deal with, some large vendors that shall go without naming, where you have all these different agents. Whereas today it's all API. It's all, here's the API, you scrape it, right? Now we focus on Prometheus. We don't get into like OTel. I feel like there's probably a excursion we can do on like OTel and moving from just straight up Prometheus to OTel and what those differences are. I feel like there's so much room here on things that we can do and things that from an enterprise really makes knowing what's going on just so much easier. Boris is booing SNMP.
Yeah, but in the old days, that's all we had.
My problem, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a different time period for those.
So I mean, I had a customer where we went years without real monitoring. Hey, Marino, we heard SNMP. It was just like, I gotta show up for SNMP. Said nobody ever. But yeah, so I mean, I had a customer where we had a cluster run, or this is actually before Kubernetes. We had everything deployed on VMs, and they couldn't get monitoring in because they didn't want to pay for the agent because it crossed the network boundary. And I was like, well, how am I supposed to know what's going on? Because that's not my job as the app developer. That's your job as the infrastructure. And they're like, oopsies. Okay, that's not super helpful. Thank you. So yeah, it just, monitoring is one of those things that you feel like should be easy and isn't. And so we dive into metrics, and in this chapter, we don't try to build a full monitoring system for you, right? Like we try and say, here's what's available that's open source. There's a lot of great monitoring systems out there. The thing that I love about Prometheus is Prometheus kind of did to monitoring what LDAP did to authentication. It made it so simplistic. Maybe a little too simplistic at times, but it simplified it down to its most basic part and said, we're going to make this easy. Just give me an endpoint, give me a format, that's it. Everything else is your problem. But that's great because that everything else can be handled in so many different ways. So I'll give you an example. Security, right? Like, the old joke of SNMP is, security is not my problem. And, I'm sorry, Kafka. I really no. But so back in the day, SNMP, it had no security, right? And so the joke was always, security is not my problem. Today with Prometheus, because even though Prometheus doesn't have any built-in security, Prometheus is just a web client and a web server. Well, guess what? We have standards for that sort of thing now. So we can just say, okay, we're going to require authentication. Oh, or Prometheus runs in cluster. Well, we're going to make it authenticate with its service account. We can actually add authentication to our security or to our monitoring. So it really, it really provides being able to piggyback off of our existing standards and simplifies in a way that lets you do so much so easily. It really was a complete, even though it wasn't originally designed for Kubernetes, it just completely changed the way people looked at metrics, I think. So yeah, so we've got that. And then, I guess Boris is saying that we were having some choppiness issues on LinkedIn, but here we go. So, all right. So, anything else you want to add before we dive into the lab, Scott?
No, like you said, there's a lot you can do. When you say like OTel, it's even be more than an excursion, right? Because you can deploy OTel as daemon set, stateful set. People use it as daemon set, and people got to remember logging and observability tools on a cluster add a load. Yep. You deploy OTel as a daemon set, for an example, and it scrapes everywhere. The way it's designed, it will crash your cluster. Firsthand, I've seen it go from about 600 TPS. We installed an OTel in daemon set. Obviously, just a typical, hey, we got it from Git, deploy to test. Went to 6,000 TPS as soon as it was deployed. And it's just the way the daemon set hammered the API.
Well, to be fair, you guys are running bigger clusters than I think most people are.
Well, there's some. I mean, this is a test one, though, so 80 nodes, for an example, right? Not small, but not huge.
Right.
But, even when you go past maybe 20, just because as a daemon set, the way it hammered, everything hit the API server for everything.
Yeah.
And it's not the way to deploy it. And this is my one problem with people when they go to like a GitHub especially for an enterprise, to say, cool, I've got it, let's run it. It's rarely the most secure, the most optimized, the most anything. It's just get it running. Right. So
on a couple
well,
of
it was an RPI 5. Come on, it was a 5. I mean, you should be able to handle it.
All right, so let's dive in. And I think we need to have an excursion on Hotel, because that's when I want to learn a little bit more about too.
Yeah, I've been thrown into it quite a bit from the personal side at work and that. So yeah.
So okay, so we are gonna get started here. I'm on page 440, and the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna look at Let me do this. See, I see it up in front. So my lab setup, I've got my widescreen, which is over my laptop. So I'm demoing on my laptop, but I'm looking at my and it really messes with me. But okay, so kube control. Let's okay, so we have a metrics endpoint. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to look at Kubernetes' own built-in metrics endpoint, right? So this is a Prometheus compatible endpoint that's going to tell you a lot of information about what's going on with your cluster. So we're going to start off by creating and even before there, kube control, get nodes. So I start off with a brand new cluster. This is our cluster that's running with create cluster, from chapter 2, start fresh. I will say the first part of this, the Prometheus, doesn't require a ton of horsepower. When we get to OpenSearch, you're gonna need a beefy VM. I'm talking like 16 gig, something with a lot of horsepower in order to search. All right, so let's take a look at our metrics. So we got get metrics. So we create a service account, and then we are going to create a cluster role that lets us get our metrics. Nope, wrong place. Right? And then we gotta get a token. Did I do the whole thing? Verb get. Oh, nope. I missed something here. So stupid copy and paste. Kube control.
Yeah.
Delete. Cluster role. Get metrics. All right. Unknown flag. Oh, did it again. Service account. No. Verb get. Kube control. Create. Cluster role. Oh. Let's see here. What did I get wrong? Cluster role. I know this works because I actually ran this earlier. So why is this not working? Oh yeah, exactly. Service account. Create cluster role. Oh. I'm losing my mind. Oh, I see what I did wrong. Shh. Okay. I am losing my damn mind. All right. So try this again. Create the cluster role. I'm just going to clear some up here. So I created the cluster role. Now I got to do the cluster role binding. If somebody had written something about like RBAC and how RBAC works, that'd have been great. All right, so I created that.
Mark.
Yeah. All right, so let's grab a token. Let's make sure we got the token. Yep, we got our service account token. And let's run curl. There we go. So as you can see, there's a ton of metrics that we get. And trying to peruse these as a human is just, don't bother. The good news is there are tools, right? But, you know, and we're going to dive into the format of how what do you guys? Oh, you and Boris are having fun.
Well, we're having conversations about some things when you were doing that. So
gotcha. Yeah. So there are a ton of options here, and we're going to dive into the Prometheus format here in a bit. But the point is that once you're authenticated, and this is kind of what I was talking about with the beauty of standards, right? Is because it's just using HTTPS, you just generate a service account and a token to access our API server to get our metrics, right? So now there's a standard way to handle that, and it's Kubernetes authentication. So, you know, if you want to externalize your authentication, like let's say you wanted to have, you know, something like Open Unison do your service account authentication, so that way your off, you know, your off cluster monitoring solution isn't using a static, like that all works. That's cool to me. So the point is, though, is that you've got all this information. How do you manage it? How do you get it out? You know, what are you going to do with all this data? So that's where Prometheus comes in. And the nice thing about Prometheus is I know that, Scott, you had just gone on a bit of a rant about not going into chapter 15. And then we're going to deploying stuff straight from GitHub, but we're going to go ahead and deploy some stuff straight from GitHub. So there is a great project called the Prometheus. So this is a combination of Prometheus for ingesting ingesting metrics and managing those metrics, generating alerts, Alert Manager, which is we'll show off here in a moment, which is a tool for actually sending out alerts. Something's broken now. And then Grafana, which, you know, is a great tool for showing graphs and stuff. So it's a great way to build dashboards for your whatchamacallit, for your metrics and for your users, right? So it's a great way to be able to do that. Now, this is a default system. It uses operators. It's got CRDs. So you're not just messing around with config maps and stuff.
Well, and those dashboards too, Mark, right? If anybody, I'm sure a lot of people watching have done something with Grafana, but who knows? But the community dashboards are insane.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you really have to make something yourself. You might be able to tweak something, but there are so many options out there.
So many. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go over to Firefox. First, I got to remember. So everything's deployed. The first thing we're going to do is go to Prometheus. Now, Prometheus has no security at all. It doesn't know what a user is. It doesn't care. It doesn't want to know. Right? Prometheus itself has no built-in security, which means you need to build in your security. Now, it's almost impossible to do multi-tenant Prometheus. I know there is a multi-tenant. Is it Loki? No, Loki is Grafana. I know there is a multi-tenant Prometheus project. I don't remember what it is.
That's not part of Thanos, is it?
Is it Thanos? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't know what level it gets down to, though, Mark. Yeah, I have to admit I'm not an expert on that one.
So, but you get regular Prometheus from the website or from GitHub, and it has no security. You can't configure security. You've got to add your own. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Either a little bit later or next week, depending on how far along we get. But this is a Prometheus front end, and you'll see that there's not a lot here. Prometheus has its own way of querying. And so everything in Prometheus is based on labels and its own kind of language. So like if you've ever, and Boris, you are absolutely correct. And so first off, thank you, Yobami. I think I'm saying that right. Thanos, thank you for confirming that for us. And oops. Yes, Boris, absolutely. We're going to put it behind a reverse proxy and lock down that reverse proxy. So let's say we want to get some info. We're going to, this is the example out of the book. Nope, I gotta come down here. Yeah, put that all online. And you can see here, this gives us the coop pod info by namespace. So this is the number of pods in each namespace, basically. And we don't. There are multiple books on Prometheus. The goal here is not to teach you how to use Prometheus in detail. It's how to get you started and how it relates to the overall cluster. What's the question? Grafana usually escort with Prometheus. Any other alternative? I don't know of an alternative to Grafana that's free. I'm sure there are many alternatives.
What we used to use in what I used in the Falco chapter was Kibana.
Right.
Right. So Kibana has. I know that they've done some stuff on the open source, though it was a while ago. But I don't know if they were taking away some features or not. But that did work.
Yeah,
Datadog not cheap by any means.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Now, what's interesting about Datadog, though, is Datadog supports Prometheus endpoints, right? Like if you have a Prometheus endpoint, you can just point Datadog at it, and it'll ingest that data.
Yeah, there's obviously other alternatives out there, right, guys? New Relic, Splunk, Dynatrace. There's a million of them out there, but so few in the open source community that are featured.
Yeah, and I think that's mostly because Grafana just works. Prometheus works, or Manager works. It's one of those things where it's just like it filled the void, and nobody turned around and said, we need something better than that. Like it does a really good job. So coming back into Prometheus, wrong window, has alerts, right? So you define inside of Prometheus. Oh, I think we might have lost Scott. You define inside of Prometheus when something is broken, right? So etcd doesn't have enough members. Targets are down. We've got some stuff that's not working. Watchdog. This one's actually a pretty interesting one where you want something constantly failing to be able to send an alert to something. So if you run Prometheus on cluster, but you want something to monitor the Prometheus, you set up this watchdog alert. So that way, when the watchdog stops sending alerts, you know that there's a problem with Prometheus. So that's a pretty cool one. I use that one a lot. But Prometheus doesn't do anything with these alerts. It just says there's a problem. You need something to say, okay, we know there's a problem. Now, how do you go ahead and do something about it? So we'll look at that. And so, we know Pixie, right, Dom? I don't know if Dom is still here, but we know Pixie. We did a excursion. That's what we're calling them, right? Excursions. Yep. With Dom about Pixie a few weeks ago. So check out the excursions playlist, and we'll be in there. So that's Prometheus, or the alerts. The other thing to look at are targets. So you come over here to targets, And it'll list all the different endpoints that are being monitored and which ones work and which ones don't. You remember, we're running inside of a kind cluster, so you're not going to have 3 etcds as an example. That'll cause some havoc. So yeah, so let's go ahead and start looking at how Prometheus actually collects metrics. And so what Prometheus is doing, and this might actually just be easier to bring the page over. So, you know, when we look at the way metrics get generated, this is the format that you're going to see. You have metric name, and then a list of annotations or labels, whatever you want to call them. But the point is that that's how you create variances. So you see here we have the kube pod info. That's the name of the metric. And then we have annotations that say it's in the Calico system namespace. This is the name of the pod. So that's how you go from the way you go from specific to broad is by adding more annotations. That groups, you know, the more annotations you have, the more it breaks down the data, the more individual you get. The fewer annotations, the more generalized the data is across your cluster or whatever you're monitoring. All right, where are we in the lab? I think I need a new magic trackpad. This one seems to be dying on me. So then we get into some common Kubernetes metrics. We talk about that a little. So let's talk about Grafana. So now, we're going to just go to Grafana. Accept the risk. And then it's admin, I think is the username. And the password is prom operator. There we go. So Grafana is a little bit different from Prometheus in that it is a standalone application. And as a standalone application, it does, in fact, have a little bit of its own security. You can do SSO with it. It supports the open source version, supports 2 roles, admin and viewer, I think, admin or member. You got to get the paid for version to be able to do more granular oh, we can hide this. It's going to be annoying to people. More granular authorizations for different groups inside of Grafana. But the one that comes with the Prometheus stack is kind of crazy. Look at all these dashboards that you have in here. So we go to compute resources. So here's compute resources in the cluster. And I don't know about you, Scott. I just love staring at. Oh, Scott's not there anymore. I just.
I'm here. My dog was just underneath my desk. So I had to figure out where she was going.
I love staring at Grafana dashboards, like just watching them tick by and all the colors, and you know, I know I'm easily amused, but
you're not alone, Mark. Right? I mean, even home automation people. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I've been around it for 20 years, but you know, Home Assistant comes with Grafana dashboards, right? This is just for your home, right? Let's go look at on-off and presence sensors.
Yeah.
Let's just see the cool stuff in Grafana.
It's amazing how fun it is to see all this data represented on a dashboard.
Yep.
And the cool thing about Grafana is that you can edit your dashboards, right? And so now I'm in edit mode. And when I go to look at, I want to look at like, can I look at this one? Or I don't want to edit the whole one. I want to edit this part of it. So the way Grafana works is you define a data source. In this case, it's Prometheus. And then you define your PromQL. And to answer the question, Boris, yes, this is the Grafana that is installed with the Prometheus stack. So it's Prometheus operator, alert manager operator, Grafana operator. Actually, I don't think Grafana actually has an operator now that I think about it. I think it is an operator, sort of. But the idea here is that you can create and edit your own dashboards pretty easily. So like what I like to do is use the GUI to build and design my dashboard and then export it to JSON, which we'll look at how you do later. And then you can create your own dashboards, which is really nice using this as a starting point. That's Grafana. And let's go ahead and, oh, okay, so we had a lab here. So I'm going to go back here to edit. So we take our metrics. I'm going to go back over here to Grafana. Not sure why. Let's do that. All right. Or no, not Grafana. Excuse me. Prometheus. Except I want it to be 53. Right. Nope, nope. What did I do wrong here? Oh, that's why. Prometheus.apps 92168.253 nip.io. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to put this expression. So this is coming directly out of our Grafana. Execute. Didn't work. I'm in the right place, right? Metrics browser. How am I getting an empty? Oh, that's why. So I got to remove this by cluster. So sum irate. That work? There we go. Okay, so because everything today needs to be multi-cluster, so they're making this multi-cluster. So that's the difference between the book and the exercise that I just showed. So I got rid of the annotation, and you know, I haven't done anything with Loki, but that sounds like something that'd be fun to do in an excursion. There's nothing in this chapter on Loki.
No.
We stick
a
just
little bit bigger to set up. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not that it can't be, but for our exercises, it could be a good add-on, like you said, Mark.
Yeah, we wanted to focus on making sure that to understand how the pieces all fit together, right? Because these topics deserve their own time. But the point here is that you can go between your Grafana and your Prometheus here. Build the expression in Prometheus, be happy with it, and then you move it over to Grafana. And so now we go over to how do we query Prometheus with PromQL. And so let's look at what happens. So here's the example that we give. Let's come back here. So here's our example. And so we don't have anything. No, go away. Stupid AI. So this is the information about each of our pods, and we didn't add any annotations here. So we're getting everything, right? Now, if we want to see just what's going on in the monitoring namespace, tack that on the end, and that now limits the amount of information we see. So you can start to see and there's so much information that it's so easy. Yes, Boris, you're absolutely right. There's so much information. It's all free, right? And what's crazy is just how simple this all is. Like it's so conceptually simple, but you've got so much power at your fingertips. So we've limited it down by monitoring or by the namespace. And then you can also look at, if we want to zoom in on, specific and hide what, it's a pretty complex GUI that lets you do a lot of things. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do some data aggregation. So once we've figured out what we want to limit it down to, figure out, do we want to sum, add, whatever. So we're going to add the sum, and we're going to do this by pod. So what we're now going to do is say we're going to get all this information. Oops. So we're going to just to bring it up. So we're going to do a sum. That's sum. So we're going to sum all this information about every pod, but we're going to break it down by pod. So we're going to say, okay, do that. And now we can see that for each pod, our CPU usage, seconds total. So now this is obviously something that you're not going to do on a pod by pod level a lot, but I find especially the Prometheus stack super helpful for when you are designing a manifest and you've got to figure out what should my requests and limits be. Like being able to zoom in to this level of specificity really makes life better and really makes it easier. So yeah, and then there are also additional functions. So you can do some math. So let's say you want to do some calculations here. Do this. Right? So we're getting the sum of all of our CPU usage and figuring out what percentage we're using at any given time, right? So, we're running at 2.5% CPU use. Not a lot going on right now. So there's a lot you can do with PromQ. There are plenty of books that just deal with it. We're not going to dive into that. To be an extraction manual. So then the question is, from an alert standpoint, like we're talking about metrics, but what about when something's broken? How do you know if something's broken? Then what do? You want to alert someone, right? You want to send out a page. I actually did own a pager. I am old enough to have owned a pager. So how do you send out that proverbial page, whether that's on Slack and email, whatnot? That's where the alert manager tool comes in. So I have it to alertmanager.apps. It would be really great if there was a way I could send 192.168.253.nip.io. So the alert manager is just a way of getting, like the alert manager doesn't create the alerts. The alert manager gets the alerts from Prometheus and then does something with them. So here we have a bunch of alerts. They're already running and we can see them. And we've got different targets down. So how do you get this information out? So there are a bunch of standard connections. Slack is one. I might have developed a nervous tick from Slack, just because I use it to get my alerts. So now every time I hear Slack on, but you do by email, all sorts of different things, by webhook. So what we're actually going to do is in the lab, we're going to go ahead and stand up a Nginx instance to run a webhook so that every time there's an alert in Alert Manager, we get an alert so we can see what that looks like. So let me go ahead and copy that back here. Clear PWD. So where am I? I'm in chapter 15. Right. All right. So the first thing I did was I created our Nginx. And this is responsible for receiving a webhook. Like we're just going to look at the logs, nothing crazy. Control get pods and manager webhook. Nope. What did I do wrong here? Alert. Oh, there we go. All right. So we've got our pod running. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a alert manager config. So if we take a look here, chapter 15, let's take a look at, I think it's in simple. No, I created it. So where did I create it? Alert manager. Oh, critical alerts. All right. So here's the alert that we created. And whenever there's an alert, what we're going to do is we are going to send it to this webhook here. So this is our Nginx that we just deployed. So what we're going to see is we already saw that there were plenty of broken things in our cluster to look at. So we're going to create this alert manager config. The alert manager operator is going to see this, update itself, and then it's going to send alerts to our webhook, which is just going to get logged by our Nginx. So I'm going to go ahead and do a kube control create F critical alerts. All right. So now, if everything goes according to plan, kube control logs F and alert manager webhook. So if we give this a few minutes, we should eventually find that we're getting alerts sent to our. We look at status. Trying to see, is there a. Might not have gotten picked up yet. Routes. There's the watchdog. Let me see if it got created yet. Wait a few minutes. There will eventually be an alert. Did it get created? Oh, there we go. Okay. So, as I promised, we had a post to a webhook. Now, this is a little bit of a pain to read, so let me clean this up a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and bring this up here to clean it up. Nope. Just want to new file. Nope. All right, so let's replace these weird X22s with that all.
And then we'll replace the X5C. Trying to remember what's X5C. No, we're just going to replace it with nothing. All right, and then let's go to a pretty printer. JSON pretty prints. This is the best one, so we'll use this. Make pretty. Nope, didn't like that. What did I break? Oh, I know why. Because it's embedded. Okay. All right. This is a little annoying, but basically what's happening is because it's embedded JSON inside of JSON. I needed to do some decoding first, but it doesn't matter. Point here is that you can see the information coming in. So what's happening is we've configured our work manager. If I do a refresh here, our config will now be updated where now you can see the routes have been updated so that you have a place to send the broken alerts to. So that's that lab. And then the last part we're going to go through, send an alert to receiver. So now let's see how we actually create an alert. So what we're going to do is we're going to deploy Open Unison and build an alert based on that. So I'm going to go to CD chapter 15. Where am I? CD chapter 15. I'm going to go to user auth and deploy Open Unison. So this is going to deploy Open Unison into our cluster. The reason we went with Open Unison here is for a couple of reasons. One, I already had the scripts to do it. Two, it's got a Prometheus endpoint, so that makes it easier to demo this off. And three, it makes it easy. I already have stuff to be able to do dashboard to track how many users are logged into Open Unison. So we get to show the whole thing. So that is rolling out. So we're going to wait for that to finish going. So this is going to take a hot minute. So I see that Kafka, Boris, and Scott are having conversations without us. Oops! How'd you get kicked off the stage?
I don't know, but I had to come back in. I'm like, well, I'll hang out in the common room.
What are you guys talking about? You guys talking about certifications?
No, getting into how you kind of learn something in Prometheus. You don't use it for a while, you forget it, and how it took me a long time. And we talked about this, Mark, that to come to grips with I can't know everything in the ecosystem anymore.
No,
it's just there's too much. Well, I mean, maybe if I didn't have a day job, but when you got to do just regular work, it's so big, right? And all these tools, you can see how this expands. We really notice it, everybody, when we're doing updates to the book, right?
Oh yeah.
I remember first, second edition. I think Mark and I blindly went in. It was only a year, and we said, "Oh, it's an update. This will be easy." You go to a project, and you're like, "Oh man, it doesn't even deploy the same way." And you learn like, "Wow, I gotta like crash course all the updates." And that's just one part, right?
Well, and how many times did we run into that, even getting ready for these videos and live streams, because the project made changes?
Yeah, so we've been beaten a couple of times this way, which is why we hard code many of the images now for anybody that happens to go through the exercises. I'm not gonna say we haven't missed any, right? Especially using Helm to have it, we might just say Helm install, and it's like, yeah, okay, that updates. So and we did run into that. So we learned a lot of the image tags, at least, Mark, right? Where I'm like, okay, tag this image, because first edition we did have that. It was like, oh, they updated it. It does this now. Right? It doesn't work with this version of Calico. And that's something you always run into, right? I mean, everything's still linked between versions, between CNI, any kind of storage. It doesn't matter. Everything has to line up.
Yep. All right, cool. So we have Open Unison is deployed. And then if we go over to here, we're going to go, let's pop this open. Kato, it's Kato U. Yep, here we go. So this uses the same Open Unison from previous chapters. So all the usernames are the same. Now log in. 1, 2, 3, except I didn't use the right start 1, 2, 3. All right, so if you deployed Open Unison from our last chapter where we did, which I think was we did in vCluster. So we've got the authentication portal deployed, and we've got Prometheus deployed. If we look here at our targets, you'll see that we have a target in here somewhere called Open Unison. Let's see here. Open Unison. Here we go, Orchestra. So we're actually scraping Open Unison's metrics endpoint. So we're not just scraping Kubernetes, but we're also scraping Open Unison. So now we are going to show what happens when you break that, right? Like what's the series of events? So I'm going to go ahead and delete the application metric for Open Unison. So this is basically breaking the way Open Unison communicates with Prometheus. I'm going to delete that. And now what's going to happen is, as we give this a few moments, it's going to go from green to yellow to red. We're going to go from everything's great to everything is broken and the world is on fire. So we're going to give this a few moments. And and if we actually come over here to our alerts, so okay, we can see we're actually pending, no sessions. That was a custom alert that we defined to say if there are no sessions, not zero, but no sessions. All something's broken. Open Unison is broken, so we should have an alert. And waiting for it to go from pending to down, because obviously you want to give a grace period. Like you don't generally want to know immediately when something gets triggered, because it could just be a blip, it could just be a connection issue. These things, we were just talking about how many things there are going on in these clusters. You don't want alerts to be on a hair trigger. Let's see here. So we're still in pending status. Here we go, firing. So at this point, if I now go to Alert Manager, we now have an alert that's firing for no sessions, right? So at this point, my pager would go off saying, hey, Mark, Open Unison is down. People can't log into your cluster anymore. What's going on? And now I know to go check something. So now how do we bring it back? So in Open Unison, we do this very easily.
Hey, Mark, as you're doing that, I got to just tell people in the link, thanks for showing up. I have my paying job. Kind of neat at one. So
we're almost wrapped up here, but adios, Scott, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody, and I'll see everybody next week. See you, Mark. See you, bud.
All right, so I've redeployed the application side of Open Unison. The metrics should be running again. If I go to kube control logs, FL, app gets Open Unison, orchestra, and Open Unison. Too many open files. I'll deal with that at another point. But we can see that we're getting metrics scraped again. So the metrics endpoint's getting hit. I come back here to Grafana, or I come back here, Prometheus rather. Now, this is a weird thing about Prometheus, is that when state changes, sometimes Prometheus version 3 will just hang and it won't accept any requests. Kube control, delete pods, all, and monitoring. Really weird. It happened. It doesn't seem to matter if it's an on-prem cluster like this. I've run it inside of AKS and EKS, exact same problem. Whenever there's like, it's still monitoring, but it won't accept incoming web connection. So let's see. Watch, kube control, get pods, and Prometheus for monitoring. So we are back in action. So if we come back here, and we can see that our no sessions are back, right? Everything looks good. So that's what it looks like when you run that. So the next thing we're going to do here, how are we doing here? I just want to check to see. All right, I think we're going to do this last bit and then we'll call it a day. Because next thing we do is get into visualizing custom graphs. So we'll do that later. So now, if we go to Alert Manager, we can look at how to silence alerts. So why are you going to silence an alert? You know work's being done, right? You don't need to get an alert on it. So let's say you're doing a migration or you're doing an upgrade, and you know there's going to be an outage. You have a scheduled outage. Create a silence, that way you don't get an alert. Or there's already an outage. You know it's a problem. You don't need the red alert blaring in the background. So it's pretty easy. You go into silences, create one, and it's all based on or you own silences, new silence. There we go. And it's all based on labels. So all the labels that we saw over here, excuse me. So we only have like one alert right now. All of the these different labels, you can build silences off of them. So that makes that really easy. And then the last bit is, how do you create your own graphs? So here in Open Unison, I'm going to show you this. When you click on Grafana, if this starts happening during the lab, this is a cookie problem, because we've got two versions of Grafana that we had. We had one version of Grafana that had no authentication, and now we have a version of Grafana where we do have authentication. So the easiest way to fix this is to just close your browser window. And that's why I like to do everything in incognito or browser. Kate's apps.192.168.253.nip.io. Oops. Kate. There we go. So I go over to Grafana. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to kill. I must have an extra Firefox somewhere. Not the problem we're talking about, Boris. I feel you. All right, private window. Let's try this again. Kato U. We're gonna go 53. All right, so let's log in again. So now we go to Grafana. We're gonna get right in, and it knows who we are because sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. Yes, I'm from Massachusetts. Why do you ask? So we've got this cool dashboard here that we added when we deployed Open Unison called. Actually, no, I don't think we actually deployed it yet. Did we? No, we didn't deploy it yet. There you go. So I'm on page 457. And so we actually created a graph or a dashboard for Open Unison. So we want to be in chapter 15, user auth, and let's look at Grafana dashboard. So here's the custom dashboard. The important thing is you see this label here where Grafana dashboard 1. That's how the built-in Grafana operator knows that it's not really an operator because it's not a CRD, but that the config map is meant for Grafana. So that's how you're not messing around with, trying to jam in your own custom dashboard. So I created this dashboard by hand inside the GUI, exported the JSON, created it as a config map. So now if I want to add it, create F, nope. Grafana custom dashboard. So create that, and then trying to remember if it finds it automatically or if we just got to restart. Oh, no, there it is, Open Unison. So here's our dashboard. We'll do the last 5 minutes, and we can see the number of active sessions running inside of Open Unison. So it makes it really easy to add your own applications and systems into Prometheus. And so then we dive into the details of how that worked. So we don't have to really get into that. Talking a little bit about securing the access to the metrics endpoint. So we talked about this earlier, where in Open Unison, the way that we're doing this is we're actually protecting our metrics endpoint by authenticating the Prometheus service account. So you try to access that, and it's not going to work. You're going to get a 403 because you don't have rights. So that's the beauty of standards in 2025. You're able to use those standards to layer in standard authentication, right? Like Grafana doesn't know anything about Open Unison, but because we both use standard, or Prometheus rather, about Open Unison, but because these are all standards-based, makes it a lot easier to secure. And then finally, we get into actually securing the monitor stack. And this is how you secure it, right? Boris had mentioned it earlier on. We've got a reverse proxy of Open Unison front. So, Grafana knows who I am based on SSO from a header. And then Prometheus and Alert Manager don't actually know who I am, but they don't care either. But they are locked down. If I try to access them, on their own, I'm going to get prompted for authentication. So let's go ahead here. So I'm going to log out. So now I'm going to go to Prometheus the way I did earlier in the chapter. And, oh, right, because I didn't actually log out on this side. That's embarrassing. Log out. Let's try this. No. Okay. You know what? I'm just going to close the page. Private window. There we go. So now I tried to access Prometheus. I get forced to log in. So by putting it behind a reverse proxy that's authenticating, even though Prometheus doesn't know who users are, it gives you that level of security without having to like kube control port forward. And it's all in the log. So you're going to want to do that with any kind of production rollout. So we covered a lot. That takes us to the end of the Prometheus section. So next week, we're going to dive into log management with OpenSearch and the OpenSearch project. So thank you everybody for joining. Special shout out to Boris, Kafka. Who else we got? Marino was with us for a little bit. We had that was a long conversation. Ayobami, thank you for joining us all the way from Portugal. So we've got a nice European contingent here. And yeah, so thank you everybody. Dom as well. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for leaving comments. If you have the book and you enjoyed it, please take a moment to leave a review on Amazon. If you haven't, then understood, and thank you very much still. Anyway, thank you everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.